Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to the Finance Story LinkedIn Live series brought to you by Pazy and Startup Movers. In these LinkedIn Live series, we actually discuss trends, insights about the market, about the various opportunities, and help you make better decisions for your career, for your organization. So, most of us know about finance careers, business opportunities in the UK, in the US, and of course the UAE. But today we decided to understand more on the opportunities in Japan, which is the fourth largest economy, and very little is discussed about it. At least on the finance story, we didn't cover much of it. And to make this happen, we have with us Pankaj, who's a partner at Deloitte Japan. Pankaj, thanks a ton for joining in and for just making this happen. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and a big konnichiwa from the land of the rising sun. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj. Pankaj, just if you could, the volume has just gone a little down. No problem. Yes,
Okay,
now
I'll
it's
probably talk a little
yes.
louder.
Thanks, Pankaj. I mean, it's been absolutely delightful coordinating with you and making this happen. And everyone who's joining in, thanks for joining in. If you have any questions, feel free to type in. I know it's really early. Most of you will be in office, but we'll surely take up these questions whenever we can. So, Pankaj, my first question for you is: tell us about your role. Tell us about what you do at Deloitte Japan, and more about yourself.
So, I'm a part of the Deloitte Tomatsu Consulting in Japan, and I take care of the inbound clients in Japan. So, in Japan, we have almost 250 to 300 medium to large scale multinational companies. A lot of them are, say, from the US or EMEA, and some of them are from Asia Pacific as well. So, those would be my, say, target clients. We do probably all kind of consulting work. I primarily am a chartered accountant, so my focus for the last 24 years has been around finance and accounting. But eventually, since 2017, I've become more techno-functional. In Deloitte parlance, we call ourselves as purple people. Purple is a mix of red and blue. So red is technical and blue is functional. So the mix of it is purple. So yeah, I'm a purple person. And as we speak about Japan, we will require a lot of purple people here. So I do have a team of around 50 people who are mainly bilinguals in Japan, and we take care of the consulting requirements of our multinational clients. I also have some Japanese multinational clients who have operations outside Japan, so it's quite a bit of an overlap. Also, I wear a few Asia Pacific hats as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Amazing. I'm going to ask you a lot more about Japan, and I have so many questions, and I know you really want to share as well, for the benefit of everybody. But let me understand a little bit. You worked in India, CA from India. You worked in Dubai, the Middle East. You worked in the US, and now it's been 8 years in Japan. So how did Japan happen? And of course, what made you stay?
Uh, See, my 24 years, I've been actually traveling to many different countries. I've started with Middle East in the M&E side, but then eventually did quite a few stints in, say, the US, South Africa, Ireland, Sweden as well, in Singapore, and finally landed in Japan. So I came through the mobility program of Deloitte, and it was supposed to be a 2 year secondment. But in the first year itself, the Deloitte Japan firm offered me a local partnership, and I took it, and I don't regret at all. So 2020, I got my PR here in Japan, and since then it has been a very interesting ride, and all the way through COVID, seen the ups and downs. But Japan as an economy, I mean, the numbers obviously tell a different story, but I see a lot of vibrancy in the Japanese economy.
Okay. So, Pankaj, when you're talking about Japan, right? Okay, so you worked in Europe, Sweden, you worked in the Middle East, you worked in the US. So how did you, what was your criteria when saying, hey, you know what, okay, I'll take this up with Deloitte Japan? What were you thinking? What was your pointers?
I think I think that first year, actually the 6 months itself, it's a realization, right? So if you can survive in Japan for 6 months, I think you'll fall in love with it, right? So, and there are a few nuances which you'll obviously have to consider. Of course, as a working culture, it's a very interesting working culture. But if you're able to understand how to live and work with the Japanese people, I think you'll crack the code, And as we talk, about the cultural differences, I'll give you some very specific pointers as to how you can survive well in Japan. But yeah, I mean, obviously, from a family perspective, I think safety was very important. Having a girl child, my daughter is 19, so I always wanted to have a safe place for her. So I think Japan is probably the safest country for a girl child. That's number one. Good education, a lot of international schools, a lot of universities as well, which are now offering English courses. The infrastructure, of course, you've got four weathers here, and overall, I think, of course, the taxation is pretty high, but healthcare is pretty decent, right? And it's say 8 hours flight from Tokyo to Mumbai or any other cities in India. So it's pretty much proximity. So if I take an 11 a.m. flight from Tokyo to Mumbai, it's a 3.5 hours I save. So I land in Mumbai at 6 p.m. So can't get better. And likewise, I take a flight at 8 p.m. from Mumbai and I reach early morning at 6 a.m. here. So it is a pretty comfortable place to live. It ticked all my boxes, I must say.
It ticked all your boxes. Amazing. Pankaj, you're really excited about the Japanese economy. What do we hear and read is, a lot of Japanese are investing in India. There's a lot of opportunities. There's also what we also see is there's a lot of aging population, so there's a demand. So can you help us understand what is the Japanese economy from what you see it, and where do you see the big opportunity?
Very interesting question because okay, let me break this up into two, right? So we are talking about a 4.2 trillion dollar economy. It's a humongous economy uh, with very strong foundations actually, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty stable kind of an economy. I mean, growing at say 1.5%. So that's about the GDP, right? I mean, you'll not see a 6-7% growth, but a 1.5 percent growth for a 4.2 trillion dollar economy is pretty significant, right? Now that's about the GDP. Now let's look at the demographics. The population of Japan would be around 123 million, right? And when I first came in 2017, it was 128. So we are actually losing 1 million of population per year. So it is an aging population, a big concern again from an economic perspective. Now the median age is around 49. So you can imagine, and around say 36% of the population is above 65. So there is a significant pressure on the healthcare and the pension system as well. So this, these two data points will give you a perspective of what are the opportunities and of course what are the challenges as well, right? Now, you can probably compare it with the state of Maharashtra. So Maharashtra has got, say, a population of around 128 million,
Yeah.
and the average age, the median age there is 29 years. So, and of course, we not talk about the GDPs because they're very different levels. But
Yeah.
just trying to give you the size of the demographics, and associated with that, I would look at the opportunities more than the challenges. That would be my answer to
Yep.
that question.
Yep. Yep. So, so when you're talking about opportunities, let's understand for the audience we cater to, finance, accounting. What is it that you see for, opportunities for expats, growing expats finance guys? How do you see that? Is there an opportunity for them to tap into the Japanese market? What is it? How big is this opportunity, and how difficult is it to even enter this space?
So, see, the demographics itself is a big opportunity for anyone to enter into, into this country, right? But before double clicking on, say, finance and accounting, I would probably give a view on what are the different opportunities for Indian professionals, right? So,
Yeah,
number one would be, and that has been, say, Indians are known for their IT skills. So SAP, especially S/4HANA, AI, DevOps, cybersecurity, data science, data analytics. Probably that would be the number one, you can say, in terms of say the opportunities that are there. And we see a lot of expats who are here from India are into that space. Yeah. Number two would be healthcare and pharma. And as I said, with 36% population above 65, healthcare and pharma would be a big focus. A lot of the multinational companies, pharma companies, and medical devices companies look at Japan as a very huge market. So that itself talks about the opportunities that come up for healthcare and pharma sector. The number three is, say, engineering and manufacturing, predominantly a very strong, country when it comes to, innovations that we have seen back in 1960s, 1970s, the electronics, and there's always that kind of innovation and that comes up there, right? Number four, I would say, is the hospitality part, hospitality sector. I mean, in the last 2.5 to 3 years, we have seen a significant influx of tourists, including Indians, who have been coming and exploring the beautiful country of Japan. So, hospitality sector is definitely something which a lot of people can look forward to. And number five, I would say education. Right, the education sector again is opening up significantly, and as I said, a lot of universities in Japan are now offering English courses, right? So that's a good alternative for people, who are seeking good education, say in the US, Canada, Australia, UK, Singapore again. Japan can be one of those destinations that they can look at. And of course, I'm going to talk about the requirement of Japanese
yeah,
language. But
yeah,
if you're able to look at Japan from a, say, a medium to long term perspective as a good alternative, you come here, get your graduation, post graduation in Japan, and that gives you a natural transition
yeah.
into having a long term secured job here in Japan. Hope
Okay,
that
so
answers that question. And of
it
course,
did.
I'm going to talk about the startup ecosystem here as well. That's again a significant opportunity for Indians in Japan. And yeah, to talk about the specific question on finance and accounting
Yep,
professionals, right?
yep,
Now, if you look at last 30 years, the trend that we are seeing, most of the chartered accountants or finance professionals look at, say, Middle East as their first
yep,
destination because they're naturally embracing chartered accountants there. Number two is Singapore because it's a finance hub. Then, of course, there are chartered accountants who go on to do their CPAs and they end up in US, Canada, Australia, UK. They probably do their ACCA and then they live happily ever after that, right?
yeah,
But obviously, Japan is one country which is not there on their list.
yep,
Now to give you some insight, Japan has significant shortage of accountants. Now, for a $4.2 trillion economy, you need that kind of skill set, right? And a lot of Japanese are not really, looking at, say, accounting as a profession. So, I mean, if you go to any job site here in Japan, accountants and finance people are probably the most wanted over here, right? So, if you reach out to any of these recruiters, I mean, and talk to them, I think they will be very glad to give you a perspective of that. Again, when it comes to the techno-functional side of finance, right? There's again a huge opportunity. If you are an SAP S4 HANA FICO expert, or you're into digital finance, you're into compliance, reporting, embracing technology as an enabler. I think huge opportunities for Indian finance and accounting professionals. And again, I mean, being myself being a chartered accountant, I know the kind of rigor that goes through the course, right? And I also understand the kind of fundamentals that the course has actually, it makes it very strong. So
Yep.
naturally, Indian chartered accountants make a huge impression when it comes to the core finance and accounting side. When they are actually on a job. And if you look at the J gaps and the IFRS and all those compliances over here, I think the Indian chartered accountants do a pretty good job there.
Amazing. So, from what I understood, there is immense opportunity. Expats are more than welcome. Finance, IT, technology. There is a huge opportunity. But from what we always know, right? Language could be one hindrance, right? So, how did you manage that gap? And what would you tell somebody who cannot come in as a student and say they are 10 years into their job or 15 years into the job? Can they? Does it make sense?
No, I think I'll break this question into two parts. One
Yeah,
is, say, the fresh graduates, and
yeah,
I get a lot of requests on my LinkedIn in terms of supporting the fresh graduates, and
yeah,
this an advice I give. So let me break this into two.
yeah.
So for the fresh graduates, I would suggest spend or invest, say, 12 to 18 months learning the Japanese language. That will open that's a red carpet welcome for you if you do that. So if you are able to clear your N5, N4, and N3, these are the language JLPT we call as Japanese language proficiency test. If you're able to clear your N3, that's a good entry point for you. Plus, of course, you're a graduate. I would recommend do your N3, come to Japan, explore the culture, explore the country, talk to people, talk to recruiters, get a perspective of how it is working in Japan. Go back, apply, and when you land in Japan on a work visa, you can actually pursue your N2 and N1, and you will naturally blend into the economy here. So but that's an investment. That's an
Yep.
upfront
Yeah.
investment that you have
Yeah.
to make. Secondly, if you're able to learn and adopt the Japanese way of working, right? I mean, that as I said, in 6 8 months you'll get an understanding of that, and I think you'll easily be able to get into the group. Again, Japan, lovely food, great weather, so it's a pretty embracing kind of a country as well. Of course, there are challenges, social challenges, which probably you can understand, being a country which has been traditionally it has been isolated, you can say, if you look at the history of Japan. But of course, I know personally I have not had any challenges in terms of navigating with the Japanese people. They respect professionals. They
Yep.
understand the value that they bring, so it's a great place to stay. So that's the first part. The
Yeah.
second part is for the say experienced professionals, right? Here again, your subject matter expertise, of course, I know is extremely important. But for that, I would probably break into two again. One is, if you're working in an organization which already has say presence in Japan. You might have a branch here, or you might have some operations, and you also have a mobility program. I would definitely encourage you to talk to your company and see if you've got opportunities in Japan for you to come and work. So that's number one. Secondly, if you are able to learn the Japanese language, while you are working, get to that N3 level, you'll be in a good position to start applying for jobs here. See, I mean, jobs are available. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that there are no jobs available. There's always a gap between demand and supply. So you will always have opportunities, and if you have the subject matter expertise and you are at that entry level, I think I don't think you'll be able to find it difficult to find your first job.
Okay. So will they take into consideration your experience in India or in some other country, or it's like, hey, they will? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no. I mean, I have heard from people say immigrating to say Canada, for example. The Canadian experience is very important and
Yep.
local experience. But in Japan, as long as you've got a strong subject matter expertise and they see value in you, and there's no constraint as such in terms of being recognized as a professional here.
Okay, this is amazing. So, Pankaj, I understand you moved to Japan under the mobility program of Deloitte, right? But if there's someone who discovers an opportunity on a job site, they have done their basic studies in the Japanese language, and they're prepping for it. So you can just apply through a job portal, or you can come here on some particular visa and find an opportunity. Like in the UAE, you can come on a job search visa. So how does it work? If you have an idea on this.
I would definitely encourage you all to reach out to the recruitment companies in Japan, and there are, and obviously I won't be able to name them, but
Yeah.
if you search, I mean, there are a lot of recruitment companies which hire foreigners, so they would
Yep.
be able to open the doors for you, right? So that's
Okay.
probably the best way. Secondly, of course, a lot of companies who post job openings, you'll see the criteria that that you have to be in Japan or you require Japanese language proficiency. But I mean, the best way is if you want to say invest and come to Japan for say 2 weeks, explore here, meet the recruiters, make connects. I think that is the best way to get your ways into Japan.
Okay. And once you've lived in Japan for a couple of years, like what next? Like for instance, when you talk about Dubai, once you live in Dubai, you are still an Indian. You don't become an Emirati, right? You become a resident, and you keep renewing it depending upon the kind of visas. So, what is the kind of stability that you can expect, say, from Japan? Is it like you work for a few number of years and then you got to return, and how is it?
Really? Okay, so I'll probably give you that. I was not prepared for this question, but let me give you a perspective. Okay,
Whatever.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you do come on visa sponsored by the company to start with, which
Yeah.
gives you that. But again, you're not stuck with the employer. It's a
Yeah.
work permit that is given to you. Typically, it would be for 5 years, right? There's another special category of visa called as high skill visa, right? So that's given to certain specific professions, right? So that's another good way to be here in Japan for long term. Again, if you again, there's a point system here again. So if you're able to tick off those boxes, you
Yeah.
can apply for a permanent residency here. So, and that's of course off late I've seen it does take a little longer to get the PRs, but that's another way of establishing yourself well here. Get a permanent residence like I have now. Permanent residence, of course, gives you more flexibility, and also it gives you advantages in terms of your home loan and other things. And then, of course, the next step is naturalization. You can also apply for a Japanese passport, which probably is amongst the top three passports. So, if you would like to, but of course, you'll have to give up your pretty Indian passport.
Yeah.
So, yeah, naturalization can be another way of coming, being here permanently. But of course, it's a decision that you will have to make at the age of 60, 65. Do you want to retire here? or would you like to go back to your vibrant motherland, which has its own charm in terms of
Yeah.
retiring? So it's a decision to be made.
Amazing, amazing. So that's a very important point, right? Visas and what next? How can you plan your future? You know, you've helped us understand what does one need to do to enter Japan. Pretty clear. It's a straightforward route, right? But is Japan for everybody? You know, and what does it take to be successful in Japan? Like we've heard so much about the Japanese culture, all in a very positive light, very disciplined, on time, before time. So, what is it? Is it for everybody?
If you are if you can adopt well, right, and you're able to, you can embrace cultures, you can blend well in the existing cultures. So I think that's, I don't think it's going to be difficult, right? But there are a few, say, must have, when it comes to the work culture here, right? So number one, of course, being on time is non-negotiable. It has to be. Everything here runs on on the clock, right? The average delay for the Shinkansen bullet train last year was 6 seconds, and the CEO of Shinkansen came and apologized publicly for that. So that's the kind of value they actually, put on being on time. So that's very important. Secondly, there are no shortcuts. You have to go. It's a process-oriented kind of work culture. So you can't take shortcuts. But of course, your jugards can give you some brownie points. So, and Indians are known for that jugard, and they are respected for that. But having said that, you have to be in that box, right? Secondly, there's a lot of emphasis on team success, versus individual accomplishments, right? So that's again a very important element of the work culture here. Again, a lot of stress is given on the quality of output versus how fast you do it, right?
Yeah.
So again, respecting your seniors, your colleagues, that's again a few things that you'll have to adjust, right? And if you can manage these softer aspects, mellow down a bit, in terms of be assertive but not aggressive.
Yeah.
There are some very peculiar cultural and society norms which probably you'll have to take care of. So when you land in Japan, you need to learn all those basics, right? And if you can do that, I think it's a beautiful place to live.
Amazing. So, have you been caught off guard? You know, because you have worked in different countries. You know, U.S., India, very very different. You know, Japan is totally 6 seconds is there's an apology for it, right? To be honest, in Mumbai, if you go for an even if you go to meet or interview, sometimes you're late. It's pretty much understood that you're stuck in traffic. It's okay, right? So, were you always this person, or you adapted? There was a lot of adaptation, or this was a part of your personality, so this helps get a
But
perspective.
being on time was always priority, and in consulting for 24 years, being on time is something which is non-negotiable, as I said, right?
Yeah.
So coming on time was never an issue. So the first few months, and this was something which my Japanese partner told me, how do I blend into the Japanese culture? So one is, when you land in Japan and you approach the Japanese people here, your approach should be more like, "Hey, I'm here to support you, and we
Yep.
are going to do it together," right? Versus, "Hey, I'm here to replace you," or I can do this, I can do that. So
Yep.
over the years, that I has been replaced with we, right? So whenever, even in my emails, I will never say I would say we, right? So that kind of that kind of an approach, right, helps you blend well with the Japanese. You know what questions you need to ask, what questions you cannot ask
Yeah.
your colleagues. um you know if you are able to understand some of those nuances, and blend yourself, I think it becomes much easier. And they will start, and it's all about gaining trust. So once you are able to gain their trust, they will also start opening up. I've ended up making some very good Japanese friends as well. I'm not a very social person, but over the years I've been able to live well with them. Of course, Japanese language is something which I always wanted to learn, and I did make a lot of effort. But having said that, I can navigate myself pretty well. I constructed my a Japanese house without knowing Japanese, only through Google Translate. So I mean, of course, the new the technology and translate and all translation apps available. I mean, it's pretty simple. And again, after the Tokyo Olympics 2020, which happened in 2021, things have opened up. You see a lot of English boards here. A lot of Japanese people make an effort to speak to you in
Yep.
English. Very expat friendly again. So far, touch wood, I have not been
Touch
not
wood.
faced a lot of any kind of situations where I've said, hey, where am I, or what have I done?
Amazing, amazing. And everyone who's watching in, thanks for your time. Feel free to type in your questions. I have this. Let's understand more about the opportunities now from the business perspective. Okay, you mentioned that there's a need for accountants, there's a need for finance. So we're reading a lot about GCCs being set up in India. So would you want to tell us a little bit about the Japanese India corridor? What exactly is happening? You have a clear view as a partner at Deloitte. So what exactly is happening there? And also, when it comes to offshoring, outsourcing, if you want to share a little bit on that, because that's again a lot of US work, a lot of UK work, a lot of Australian work comes to India. So what about Japan?
Okay, so let's talk about GCCs, right? So in the recent past, you've seen a lot of Japanese companies
Yep.
who are setting up the capability centers. I'm sorry, and I'm not talking about outsourcing. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about shared services. I'm talking about
Yeah.
capability
Yes.
centers, right? Because they do see a lot of value in especially the tech part of it, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of Japanese companies who have set their shops in India on the capability centers, and that is something which is actually going to grow going forward. Again, the element of
Yeah.
comes in, right? So a lot of good work happens in these GCCs. Also, from a cost perspective, a lot of the outsourcing also happens now in India, and especially a lot of BPO operators and outsourcing companies. They do offer Japanese language support, which gives them a comfort. And we have started seeing a lot of our Japanese clients visiting India, looking at the BPO hubs, looking at the opportunities. I mean, the talent there, the kind of support that they can provide, including the language support.
Yeah.
There are a lot of trainings that a lot of these companies also do in terms of Japanese culture, Japanese language. So that's actually a very conscious decision from the and an investment from the Indian service providers to give them the confidence. Right? So that's again an important element there. Of course, there are a lot of there's a lot of outsourcing that Japan does to, say, Dalian in China, which is where there is a lot of Japanese, say, language support available. Again, Manila, Kuala Lumpur, these are the other two hubs where we see a lot of outsourcing from the Japanese companies happening. But again, India is really, that's one area I can say that it's really growing. Again, if you have to talk about the investments that the Japanese government is making in India, right? So again, India, Japan have got some amazing political and economic kind of relations, and that significantly boosts this entire say you can say ecosystem, right? Now, if you look at the kind of investments, if my numbers are right, we are looking at least say 42 to 45 billion dollars invested by the Japanese government into the Indian economy from 2022 to 27, right? And if you look at some of those projects, the bullet train project, we're talking about the road and the infrastructure and road project in the northeast. If you look at the Delhi Metro project as well, and a number of other projects, including support on semiconductors, on IT,
Yep.
and some of the pharma companies that we are seeing, right? So a lot of investment from Japan comes into India, and that actually is a big boost for Indian professionals as well. Again, we see a lot of Japanese expats in India, and if any of those professionals in India, they know the Japanese language, you can actually crack the relationships there. So as we speak, my firm actually has invested significantly in India on the language part of it. So there are dedicated Japanese ring fenced kind of resources that are there in India who serve the Japanese clients. And that's actually that's how a lot of the organizations are growing, I feel.
Amazing. So from what I understand, there's actually tremendous opportunities. Even like as I said, there's US, there's UK, right? So there's also tremendous opportunity for outsourcing firms or providers of GCC as a service to Japan. You see a lot of that happening.
The skill gap that I was talking about, right? And if you are able to, provide that comfort level in terms of the language support plus, the quality of service that they are looking
Yeah,
at, if you are able to showcase that, hey, we understand your culture, we understand your ways of working. And you are able to, if you can bring them to India, show them how you work, I mean, that's a good opportunity.
that's a good opportunity. Okay, when you're talking about CA firms, I have got two more questions. Okay, when you're talking about CA firms, Pankaj, what do you think they could tap into? They have got representative offices in the UAE. There's a lot of CA firms catering to Indian clients in the UAE because it's quite an economy. What do you think about Japan? Like, should they think about Japan as well, setting up representative offices? Is there a possibility? Do you get requests from people asking for such kind of advice? Does it happen?
I haven't seen or heard
I
any
can't hear you.
Indian.
I
Is it
can.
okay
I
now?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
can.
I've not heard of any Indian chartered accountancy firms setting shop in Japan, right? I mean, the way we have seen, I've seen a few legal and lawyer firms who are law firms that are from India who are based in Japan, but accounting firms I have not heard. But having said that, I mean, there's no reason why they cannot have a representative office. They can obviously look at the entire outsourcing, option. That's very absolutely open to them. And if they have an establishment in Japan, they can be actually the front face, and then the back office can actually take this lot. Of course, language can be one of the constraints in terms of providing those services, right? So uh, I haven't seen any English kind of accounting happening in Japan. Even some of my tax work, I struggle. So yeah, I mean that would be a constraint. But having said that, if you have, if a chartered accountancy firm in India wants to have a tie-up with, say, a
Yep.
Japanese chartered
Yep.
accountancy firm and see
Yep.
if there can be a collaboration, I think
Yep.
that is absolutely open.
Tremendous.
I don't
Yep.
see any constraints there.
That's so true. So Pankaj, I've asked you so many questions, a lot of questions, and you've so kindly answered everything. Do you want to share anything else, any pointers that you believe you want to share and I could have missed asking you? Anything? We've covered the language bit. Do you want to share on the startup ecosystem?
I can talk about the startup ecosystem. So See, I mean, Japan startups ecosystem is pretty decent. I mean, it's not as vibrant as, say, the Silicon Valley, Europe, or even India, right? But
Yeah.
there is a lot of traction that we see in the startup ecosystem here. And over the past, say, few years, we have seen a lot of interest in startups, especially the PE firms and the venture capitalists who are interested in looking for options in Japan for startups. Now, there are
Yeah.
these large companies like, say, Panasonic, Sony, Toshiba, Nissan, and all the automotive majors who actually look at startups for any kind of innovations, especially in the tech side or the digital side, right? So they are actually up for grabs, you can say. And of course, the government also has quite a bit of incentives to the startups. So I know a lot of Indians who are, people from the Indian diaspora who, after working for 10, 15 years, have actually ventured into their own startups and they're doing pretty well. So, of course, there's still a lot to do. So, if there are people who are those innovative class of people, who are looking to, set up something in Japan, those who probably in the Silicon Valley who are listening, who are looking for other destinations, Japan can be that place for you. Again, the ease of doing business, of course, has its own challenges in terms of setting up a company here. But if you know some, if you can partner with somebody in Japan, may not necessarily be a Japanese, but you've got quite a few Indian actually people who are companies who help you support, say, establishing your startup in Japan.
Yeah.
Very happy to introduce you all to these people.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Pankaj, any closing message? From what I understand, Japan is actually quite untapped. It's a huge market, interesting market, and it's actually very lucrative. So, what any closing message for those who are watching? Watch later and in our articles too.
I mean, my message would be, especially to a lot of the fresh graduates coming out of universities who are looking for a destination, right? uh, I would highly, highly recommend you to take up the Japanese language course. No, probably you would do that if you want to go to Germany, right? You would take a German course. If you're looking for, an immigration to Canada, especially Quebec area, you would definitely look at a French language proficiency. You'll get those extra points in your immigration, right? So just like that, invest in the Japanese language. You get an interest in that, reach a certain level in your proficiency, and then a lot of things open for you. I mean, instead of say taking up a job, which probably is something which probably is not does not interest you much, just
Yeah.
invest 12 to 18 months focused on learning the language. India has got a number of Japanese language
Yeah.
institutes. Take advantage of that. They are online, plus there are some schools as well which provide you classroom, say, trainings. Take that, take it seriously. Once you have established that kind of proficiency, I mean, you'll get a red carpet welcome in Japan. I can assure you that. That's
Amazing,
my
amazing.
message.
Thank you so much. And thanks a ton, Pankaj, for this conversation, for being so candid and so fluid in answering every question. And, I love your videos that you make about AI, data cleansing, very knowledgeable. So I've been following you for quite some time. So thanks a ton. Thank you. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you. Thank you for your time.